What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, we got a big fight coming up tonight. Terence Crawford versus Jose Benavidez. Get the chance to see future Hall of Fame fighter in the ring tonight in Terence Bud Crawford. Very, very much looking forward to it against Jose Benavidez. And so I'm going to talk in this video about what I think is going to happen in the fight. And then what this fight means in the grand scheme of things in the welterweight division and what I hope happens afterwards. Now, before I start talking about that, though, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. It's been a couple days since I dropped a video. Welcome back. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon, and that way you'll be notified when we release more videos and when we do the live streams, usually in the morning after Trail Boxing Talk. So I hope to see you there, and please accept my invitation to subscribe. And thank you to everybody that donates to the channel and the super chats. And by watching the videos and the commercials that we have in the videos, I know that can get, that can be trying sometimes, but I definitely, I appreciate you guys' patience. Also, thank you to everybody that donates through Venmo and Patreon. And also got a new reamped Patreon page coming up soon. So I'll let you know when that's done and when it's ready to go. Now, Bud Crawford, Jose Benavidez should be fun to watch while it lasts. The best thing that's going to happen in this fight, honestly, is just to watch and see how Bud thinks and how he goes about beating Jose Benavidez. Now, there's some things that some things that Benavidez has going on that I think, can help him in this fight. One is that he's a young guy. He's listed at 6'2" with a 73-inch reach. I'm not really sure if he's that tall because the height difference between him and Bud didn't look that high. So I think, either Bud was wearing some shoes, some thick-soled shoes, which I don't believe he would waste his time doing, or Jose Benavidez is not quite as tall as he's listed, but he is the taller, longer guy. He also, watching him, went back over whatever tape I could find on him. He's a decent counterpuncher. He can crack a little something. He's got the ability to take some guys out of there. And, he's got a lot of heart about him, apparently. He's only fought 9 rounds, I do believe, since he got shot in the leg. And, so there's a little bit of wild boy to him. And I think that, that might ultimately wind up being his downfall in this fight. Bud, we all know what Bud brings. Bud is he fights southpaw, he fights orthodox. He'll slug with you. He can box with you. He's got very beautiful foot movement. I think he's the best boxer. One of the most, if not the most highly skilled boxer in a professional style boxer that we have in the game today. So, it's just going to be a beautiful thing to watch with Bud. But I think that this fight is going to end, with a knockout for Bud. And I think it's it's Jose Benavidez. And I don't think anybody should really expect anything other than a stoppage in this fight. If something does happen in this fight, other than if Jose Benavidez goes the distance, I don't even feel like I should waste recording time talking about if he wins. But, this is pretty much a fight that we all know walking in the door that Bud Crawford's going to win. And the question is just, when is he going to knock him out? Is it going to be the 8th round? Is it going to be the 6th round? Is it going to be the 8th round? Is it going to be the 10th round? I would lean towards the 8th round. So, because I think he's going to, they're going to exchange a little bit in the first couple rounds. Bud's going to wind up getting a feel for him, take away what Jose Benavidez wants to do. If Jose Benavidez comes up with a plan B attack, then Bud will take away A and B and then wind up beating him. So the question is, if it goes 6, he couldn't, the knockout will be in 6 if he doesn't have a plan B. If he only has a plan A, then I think, it'll be 6. If he can switch to plan B, then it might be 8. If he can go plan C and move and just try to avoid to get knocked out, then it could go 10 or it could go the distance. But, not much more than that. So, it is what it is as far as that fight. But, like I said, man, it's going to be fun to watch Bud fight tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. But what does this mean for the welterweight division? Nothing. From what I can see, in my opinion, the fight just means that Bud stayed active. We got a chance to see a great fighter in the ring. And that's pretty much what it is, man. I don't think that this fight is like, to me, this fight feels like Aerosmith Jr. versus Carlos Ocampo. I guess that Jose Benavidez might be slightly better. He's probably better. Definitely a little bit more proven. Not much more proven, but a little more proven than Carlos Ocampo. And the fight consequently should go a little longer. But this is a fight walking in the door, man. I remember before the fight with Carlos Ocampo, I think 78 Sports TV did his post-fight. He did a post-fight video the morning of the fight, and it's pretty much how he turned out to be. I don't think Jose Benavidez really. He just doesn't have anything for him. So what is this going to say? Like the fight with Jeff Horn and Crawford. I felt pretty much the same way about it. In that I just thought the only thing Jeff Horn versus Terence Crawford was really going to prove is, whether or not Terence Crawford was a strong welterweight or not. Now, Jose Benavidez, I don't even know if he's going to do that because Jose Benavidez, I know he's fought. I think that he's fought down at 140 before, but he just doesn't. I just don't think this kid really has anything to offer, especially coming off of an injury that was so bad that he didn't think he was going to ever. That they thought he might not ever fight again. Actually, I think Jose Benavidez. I don't think Jose Benavidez was at 140. I think he was actually 154. So for some of the fights, I know he's fought some guys that were that had fought as big as middleweight. So so it might be around the same thing as a Jeff Horn type of fight where it's just to see how he can handle a bigger guy, a stronger guy. But I don't think that Terence Crawford should have any problem with most of the welterweights. I don't really see him having a problem with two welterweights. And one of the welterweights that he'd have a problem with ain't fought in the last 2 years. So, it is what it is. There's probably only one of them. And that has a lot to do with the dudes. Less his size and strength and that's more about his skill. So, we'll see what happens, man, in that regard. But as far as what it means, again, for the welterweights, I don't think it really means much of anything. The fights that I'm looking forward to see are unification fights. And I know what Bob Arum says and what people want to happen, but I'm just not a believer that I think that there is a significant chance that we see Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder before we see Aerosmith Jr. and Terence Crawford. And just the way that Bob Arum talks about it, the things that he's actually said. I know he says stuff like, that Al Heyman isn't, he's imaginary and, he hadn't talked to him in 3 years. And, if they're serious about the fight, let's sit down and talk. Otherwise, F off. Man, it just doesn't seem like Top Rank. That's a high priority on Top Rank, because even when he's talking about it, Bob Arum's talking about the fight, they keep mentioning it being on pay-per-view. And Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are both a good bit of ways from being pay-per-view fighters. And while the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight for me would be a great fight to watch, and I believe that it would do well, just the way that Top Rank has moved in the past, it just does not seem like just because this is a really, really good fight that a lot of really hardcore boxing fans and people in the black community that know boxing want to see. That doesn't mean that he's going to put these cats on pay-per-view. There was a bunch of very good fights like that with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and they never put Floyd Mayweather Jr. on pay-per-view. I think that ESPN believes that Terence Crawford can be their marquee fighter, but until I see them actually put on a pay-per-view card, what am I gonna, if Bob Arum says he thinks that it needs to be pay-per-view before it's on there, that's what I think the biggest barrier to it is. Less about whether Terence Crawford calls him out in the ring afterwards, which, by the way, I'm very interested to see if he does. If he calls out Errol Spence in the ring I'm very interested to see whether or not he does that. Not because I think it's going to make the fight any more or less likely to happen, but just for the conversations that we've been having around, the LDBC and New Media Boxing Talk. Because, I've been going back and forth with you guys a good bit about this Aerosmith Jr. and Terence Crawford thing. And I'm going to repeat my opinion on this, again. I don't blame Terence Crawford for if it takes a while for Aerosmith Jr. and Terence Crawford to fight. Because I have no doubt that Terence Crawford would take that fight if it was presented to him. And I have no doubt that Aerosmith Jr. would take it if it was presented to them. And at this point, but the people that I'm not cool with not the people that I'm not cool with. Let me rephrase this. This stuff with people passing over this Shawn Porter conversation is I don't think people should pass over this Shawn Porter conversation. Shawn Porter was all big and bad when he was calling to fight Danny Garcia and demanding that Danny Garcia fights him, acted all kind of a fool up in the ring, all of that. But when it's with Errol Spence Jr., he gets quiet as a mouse. And I'm not interested in playing Captain Save-A-Hole with Shawn Porter because Shawn Porter was ducking Errol Spence Jr. and didn't want Errol Spence Jr. when Errol Spence Jr. was trying to give him and Danny Garcia a shot at the IBF. There was no mandatory fights for the IBF. And there was no mandatory fights for Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia, but when they weren't with before they had their fight with the WBC vacant title. And I'm just not with this. Now, if it winds up that Errol Spence Jr. has to fight somebody else, hey, man, he's got to fight somebody else, man. He could fight the Tooth Fairy for all I care. He could fight Ugas. If he wants to fight Ugas before Ugas is actually named a mandatory, cool, let him do it. He can do whatever he wants to do, man. But I don't have any, issue with Errol Spence because Errol Spence is actively trying to unify those belts and work towards being the undisputed champion. I can't say whether Terence Crawford really wants that or not. Well, he said that he wants to unify all the belts, but I don't know whether or not he wants to fight Errol Spence because I haven't heard him say it. I heard him say he will, and I'm not going for what Bo Mack said and what Bob Arum said. It's just, hey, man, we're all men. Terence Crawford is a grown man, can speak for himself. If he says that he wants to fight and he's trying to push for that fight, hey, man, then I will believe that he's trying to push, that he wants that fight, and he's specifically pushing to have that fight made. Right. And then if he's trying to make that fight, get that fight made, then, hey, man, Errol Spence needs to try to affirmatively try to make that fight happen if he can't get the Shawn Porter fight. But I ain't paying Captain Save-A-Hole with Shawn Porter until Shawn Porter is signed to fight somebody else. Until I know that Shawn Porter for sure 100% is fighting somebody else and he's got a date set, I don't care who Errol Spence Jr. fights other than Shawn Porter, because that's the fight that needs to happen, because both those guys are PBC fighters and there shouldn't be any type of reason for that shit not to happen. And Errol Spence Jr. isn't getting frozen out. Errol Spence Jr. is getting ducked. That bitch Shawn Porter ain't got the power to freeze anybody out. All he can do is run like a coward and make a bunch of excuses and talk to people behind the scenes and see if they'll help him make his excuses and help him spread his bullshit ass excuses all around the place. But I'm not buying it, dude. I have no issue whatsoever with Errol Spence Jr. I got no issue with Terence Crawford and what they're doing right now. Best of luck to Terence Crawford in that fight. Errol Spence, I can't wait to know who he's fighting next, but I'm hoping it's Shawn Porter. But Shawn Porter, nah, man, Shawn Porter was ducking Errol Spence Jr. before he got that belt. And he was all big and bad jumping in the ring with Danny Garcia and telling people, he didn't ask whether or not anybody was going to give him permission to fight Danny Garcia. He went and tried to make that happen himself. But Errol Spence Jr., the dude's, I'm not playing Captain Save-A-Hole. I'm not playing Captain with that dude. What he's doing is foul. And he ain't got it. He can't duck. They're not freezing him out. They're ducking him. Period. They're running from him. And he don't deserve any more. He don't deserve any more credit. Just like, is Anthony Joshua freezing out Errol Spence? No, he's running from him. I mean, is Anthony Joshua freezing out Deontay Wilder? No. He's running from them. He's ducking them. He's trying to find something else to do. That's what he's doing. And Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman ain't freezing out Errol Spence either. They're running from them. They're ducking them. And they don't need any type of words used about them that insinuates that they got some real authority, because they don't. They're just ducking. Period. Point blank. Anyway, can't wait to see what happens in this fight tonight. And with that, I'm out. Peace.